You should seek shelter immediately if you're in the path of this storm. This, obviously, as it crosses State Road 9 to the northwest, then north of Shelbyville, Morristown, I'm just giving you lead time here, areas well to the east then of State Road 9, but prepare for this storm. These are what we call supercells, and they are able to sustain themselves for a long period of time, so it can have a string of damage over 40, 50, 60 miles. These storms may produce a tornado that touches down, lifts back up, then another tornado creates more damage, and so that is not uncommon to see a path where it kind of hopscotches along.
And Kevin.
Yes, sir.
We'll just update the latest from the Weather Service on that storm. They are saying now a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Shelbyville, moving east at 40, and of course, that the storm has had a history of producing tornadoes, but at this point, we don't have storm spotter eyes on one.
And so that's exactly what we're talking about, right? This transformation or the cycling of the storm. And you see from Rolling Ridge on the north side then of Shelbyville on up to the municipal airport, Fairland. This is I-74 here. And areas to the east of that then will see this storm that's had a history of producing a tornado. Look at how that is by itself. And as it comes toward Rushville and St. Paul in areas of northwest Decatur County, you'll want to seek shelter with that storm as it moves eventually from near Shelbyville, just north of Shelbyville, potentially between Shelbyville and Rushville. The other storm down in Brown County, pretty much covering much of the county from Nashville down to Story, Indiana. There's Bethany, State Road 46. Once you're along State Road 46 and you get west toward Bloomington, you're on the back edge of that storm. There is the tornado warning in the west side then of Brown County, and I'm not sure what you're getting ready to cover next, if that's it or not. But there you go. There's Nashville. And southeast of Benton, I'm zooming in as close as I can to see what pops up. There's State Road 46. So this is just to the west, southwest of Nashville along State Road 46.
Yeah, Kevin. So here's kind of the larger view, and a lot of activity going on, especially south of Interstate 70. We will get you caught up to the north of I-70 here in just a second, but you can see these thunderstorms still kind of individualized here, have not fully come together in a line. And when that happens, we go from more of a tornado threat to a damaging wind threat as we see these storms kind of coalesce or come together.
I can grab that for you here.
Yep.
So the first moment of discovery, you can go ahead, Kyle, and I'll chime in when I see this.
Okay. And it looks like we've got that tornado warning that's going to continue here for the Nashville area until 5 o'clock, and then southern portions of Monroe County here until 5:15.
And let me add to that.
Yep.
So the tornado warning for Brown, Jackson, Lawrence, Monroe, that will go until 5:30. So that storm's moving east at 30 miles per hour. And so that's the latest issued at 4:44. Tornado warning, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 8 miles north of Bedford. 8 miles north of Bedford, moving to the east.
Okay, so let's make our way, here we go, down into that storm that Kevin was just updating us on. And there you can see that that storm is now moving into western portions of Lawrence County. And this is something that across central Indiana we don't see too often on the hail indicator. We're seeing some shades of blue in here indicating that hail potential over 2 inches in diameter. We've had some reports of baseball, tennis ball size hail throughout the day today. So be aware of that. If you are out ahead of this storm, and we're talking east of Bedford at this point, you can hopefully get things in from outside. But Bedford, you've already got some lightning and heavy rainfall in the area. You need to be getting to that lowest interior level of your home. Promised you that we would look in areas to the north. We still have severe thunderstorm warnings here for a little while longer. This is about another 15 minutes or so, including Anderson. Could have some hail, possibly some 60-mile-per-hour winds, and also that storm storm that was just to the north of Noblesville, or developed over Noblesville, is now racing off to the north and east there. But to the north of I-70, it's primarily a gusty wind and hail threat, at least at this moment. And that is the latest that we have from the Weather Service.
And so I'm going to go back real quick to the south. Those of you Bedford to Oolitic, and then east of that, the Virgil Grissom Museum there. Those are areas to seek shelter immediately. White River Boat Club. Again, that is western half now of Lawrence County, from Oolitic down to Bedford and west to State Road 37. This is moving to the east, and you can see from Nashville all the way down to Bedford, the storm's marching to the east, and in some cases a little southeast. These are what we call right turners. What they're doing is they're feeding on warm, moist air to keep themselves energized, in a sense, if you want to call it that. They're just seeking the fuel of these storms, and that is the heat and humidity. And since we've had these individual cells, that's exactly what's been able to happen. Here's an example of that. By itself, we still have the tornado warning for Shelby County, and Municipal Airport there, Rolling Ridge, Rays Crossing, Knightwood Village, all to the north of Shelbyville and northeast along State Road 44. If you go State Road 9 straight out of Shelbyville, and that will shift to the east of that, Morristown, Arlington, and then eventually heads up in Rush County as you're going to inherit a strong thunderstorm with a history of producing severe weather and potentially more than one tornado. We've had confirmed from the Weather Service storm spotters of at least one tornado. We don't know if it was one tornado that stayed on the ground a while or kind of picked up and then touched down multiple times, but that's to be determined. But we're waiting for more information from the New Whiteland area, from Bargersville area, from Johnson County as to damage assessment there. I'm headed to the south and east towards Shelby County and Blue Ridge, Prescott, Gowdy, Moscow, Rays Crossing. These are all areas between Shelbyville and Rushville, Homer, Manila, along State Road 44 and I-74, and then from Arlington and Marion on the north side of that. This will continue to move to the east and southeast with the potential to produce a tornado. We've had some flooding rains associated with these storms as well, but that's the least of our concerns, in the sense that I think that will be fairly fleeting. These storms that continue to make their push toward Ohio will all maintain the ability to produce all forms of severe weather. If you're in Richmond, if you're in Connorsville, if you're in Newcastle, Greensburg, down to Seymour, to North Vernon, in Jennings County, Columbus, seek shelter immediately, then follow the reports. I see you zooming in on something, Kyle. What do you got?
Yeah, Kevin, this is obviously not.
Hang on one second here. He's just trying to focus. It takes a second to kind of integrate all of these areas of information that come into us. Clearly, you're going to play a video here.
Yeah, we can go ahead to my camera there. And this is earlier from the Greenwood area near Morgantown Road. Just short 3-second video there, but you can see as they were closing in on what certainly looks like a large tornado in that area. And so I'll play that one more time.
And I'm sure there are a lot of these videos starting to surface.
You can go back to Kevin's computer.
Reports of damage, but just to show you now, within the county, nothing happening. You're all in the clear in Johnson County. Now, there will be an additional area of rain that comes back in from your west.
And I do want to just quickly say that was from Sophia Jasper. That was in Greenwood near Morgantown and 135 earlier.
And that storm is now the one that sits along State Road 9 north of Shelbyville to the west of Rushville, Morristown, Arlington to Shelbyville. Seek shelter immediately. Homer would be included in there. Anywhere along State Road 44, Manila, Rays Crossing, just try to give you as many markers that you would be familiar with as possible as the storm moves from Blue River Memorial Park near Shelbyville, just to the northeast of Shelbyville, on to the east. Then you have differing storms here to talk about. You've got one that sits here in Monroe County, not far from Lake Monroe, that marker showing rotation, potential for a tornado. The other here in western portions of Lawrence County with potential for a tornado, and then out of our viewing area, another storm with that potential. Whereas the eastern kind of third, we're starting to narrow the possibility of severe weather within the state. Those of you from Terre Haute, Lafayette, west of Indianapolis, west of Peru, west of Frankfurt, no longer have severe weather threat. Sullivan, Vincennes, severe weather threat should be over there as well. But there are still 5 tornado warnings in effect. The Shelbyville to Rushville tornado warning, and then also as you get into the southeast portion of Monroe County and down toward Bedford or areas west in Lawrence County.
And Kevin, something that I think will most likely be a common theme here from the large hail that we've had, some reports of broken windows in the Spencer area. We've also got in Delaware County now reports of some $half size or 1 1/4 inch diameter hail from that storm. Let's see what else we have coming in from the Weather Service here. Let's see.
And I'll add while you're looking for that all of the current tornado warnings are for thunderstorms capable of producing a tornado. We have no active storm spotter following a tornado. These are thunderstorms that, just like the others, have the potential to produce a tornado at any time. But notice how they're starting to really close in south of Interstate 70, then toward Greensburg, Seymour, Columbus, down through Bedford, Lawrence counties. Very dangerous area right now.
Yeah, so as we've mentioned, it's especially south of Interstate 70 where we've got these large supercell type thunderstorms. They're coming together a little bit, but they're still kind of in their own environment, especially this one here in eastern portions of Shelby County. We continue for about the next 6 minutes or so with a tornado warning here for you as this storm is getting ready to move into western portions of Rush County. Then we've got also until 5 o'clock, let's see, that warning will be allowed to expire in western Brown County because the storm's already south and east of there. So that's where we've got the severe thunderstorm warning. And then, of course, we've got the warnings that are off here to the south. So let's take you back down toward the Bedford area, continuing with a severe thunderstorm warning there. Also, the tornado warning in the back end of the county. Still watching the potential for some large hail with these storms as well. You can see some of the bright yellows here in western parts of Lawrence County, indicating possibly some half-inch diameter hail. And then we have some storms. The strongest one now that's between Anderson and Muncie. So Delaware County, you've got a severe thunderstorm warning. Could have some large hail. Also possibly some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts with that particular storm. You can see that the hail, though, largely dropping out of the storm, at least at this point. But we've seen these storms weaken a little bit and then get stronger, Kevin.
Bartholomew, Jackson, Brown counties, that's thunderstorm warning that continues until 5:30. I can show you, if you head back to, and I think you're already there, you're ahead of me, the rotation within these storms, and you see that spinning not far from Lake Monroe. That's an indicator, again, that the storm wants our attention. So we'll give it look at the rainfall rate. If you were to get into the hardest part of that, over 3 inches in an hour. It's moving to the east at about 30 miles per hour. Brownstown, 5:35 is when this would arrive. The whole area, southern portions then of Brown County, but down to Bedford, and also those of you Seymour, Medora, Brownstown, all areas that should be on alert. And we just follow this up. The thunderstorm warning between Columbus, Nashville, Bethany would be included in this, on down I-65 toward Jonesville, and then into Jackson County near Seymour. We zip to the north and east, and there's the intense storm. The storm I think, that produced the severe weather and tornado in Johnson County, moving into areas between Shelbyville and Rushville. No confirmation at this point of a tornado with that, but still certainly a dangerous storm because that marker that shows the rotation within this, which means at any point it may produce a tornado as these storms kind of cycle, regenerate, and continue on their way. This is just torrential rainfall moving to the east at about 30 miles per hour, right along State Road 44. It's starting to shift just a little bit, but shift a little east-southeast of that between Shelbyville and Rushville. Kyle?
And Kevin, so now they've put a severe thunderstorm warning here for that storm near Shelbyville, and indicating could have some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts now with that storm, and still some 2-inch diameter.
So that's warning out ahead of the tornado warning. Decatur, Rush, Shelby, radar indicated severe storm, and as Kyle mentioned, 70-mile-per-hour winds. It seems like everything's been on the extreme side as far as the hail size and wind potential with these storms, from lower Michigan all the way to the Ohio River. There's your string of warnings at this hour with these individual cells. And whenever we talk about a supercell thunderstorm, they're just more dangerous than others because what happens is, as they go vertically in the atmosphere, they tilt because the winds are stronger above ground level, and that change in wind speed and wind direction gets the storm rotating, and it separates the warm, moist air from the cold downdraft. You felt that before, the rush of cooler air right before the downpour. You separate those two, and it's in a steady state, and it has the ability to produce all forms of severe weather. And as we've mentioned, I hope right now at this point, you're watching from your place of safety. I would not wait if you're in eastern Indiana for a warning for your house. If you're in Muncie, you're in Newcastle, you're down obviously to Rushville, Connorsville, Greensburg, North Vernon, Seymour. Seek shelter now as the storms are still on the approach, and put yourself in the safest place, and then you can follow the storms and their motion to the east and eventually into, and you see the thunderstorm warning now almost to the state line that cuts across Liberty, Connorsville, Brookville Reservoir, Franklin County in southeast Indiana, and then the tornado warning still for this storm, Shelbyville toward Rushville.
And Kevin, we still have that tornado warning here until 5:30 for the storm that's moving from southeastern Monroe into southwestern Brown and northeastern Lawrence, also western Jackson counties. And that is, again, going to run until 5:30. That storm capable of producing a tornado 10 miles northeast of Bedford and moving to the east at about 35 miles per hour. So still could also have some quarter-size hail with this storm. As we're looking at those velocities, here you can see a little bit of bright green coming in with some of this red. This is, again, extreme northeastern parts of Lawrence County, and we're looking at western Jackson here. There is southeastern Monroe. It looks like we may have just had an adjustment in the warning coverage there, as we did get to 5 o'clock. So let's get you back to the warnings page here.
Still covers southeast portions of the county according to my little plot here. So from Bedford north, just northeast of Bedford into southeastern portions of Monroe County near Lake Monroe, and then southeast from there, Bartlettsville, Heltonville, Zelma, the Charles Dean Wilderness. These are all familiar areas to you. This would be to the north and east of Bedford.
And so that is now the one tornado warning that we have across central Indiana here in the WRTV area that, again, extends in southeastern parts of Monroe County into western Jackson and northeastern Lawrence there. We have additional thunderstorm warnings to the north, and that thunderstorm warning that you see stretching across from Shelbyville through Rushville, that storm could produce some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So we still have to take these storms very seriously. They can also cause some widespread wind damage with a few of those. So we'll show you just kind of the bigger picture here on the radar, and we're asking the system to do a lot of stuff here this afternoon, so it takes just a second for it to get loaded up. But let's take you into areas again east of Shelbyville, now into parts of southwestern Rush County. Severe thunderstorm warning that's going to go until 5:30. Looking at the hail, it's pulsing up just a little bit again here east of Shelbyville. Could have some hail that's 1 to an inch and a half in diameter there. And looking at winds here, still, this is an area in eastern Shelby County. We still have some areas of rotation. So we're going to, of course, continue to watch this one closely and see if that starts to look any more organized. Just kind of looking over the last little bit here, and it's hopefully not, but looking a little more organized once again over eastern portions of Shelby County, western Rush County. So these are areas that you want to go ahead and get to that lowest interior level of your home. We're talking about right along Indiana 44 there, along the Shelby and Rush County lines.
To the east, and so those from Columbus to Seymour will inherit this storm. You're getting your own, but that this will cross between Bloomington and Seymour in the big picture, the storm with the potential to produce a tornado. And as we look southeast of Lake Monroe, the Dean Wilderness, Clear Springs, Zelma, Heltonville, Bartlettsville, these are all Medora storms that would be within our locations within the storm's path. The way to look at that, there's the larger view, southern half then of Bedford, under a thunderstorm warning with the tornado warning, the northeast portion of the county. The western half of the state quickly ending any severe weather threat within Indiana. Greatest threat is now kind of pinwheeled or being pinned toward Richmond, Greensburg, back to Nashville, back from Bedford and areas northwest and southeast of that. So it's in this general area. That's not to say we can't have an isolated storm for those of you Muncie on up toward Winchester or Portland. But in general, I would seek shelter Connorsville and Liberty. I would seek shelter in Brookville, on down into Versailles, North Vernon, obviously Seymour, and areas from Brownstown to Medora into the southern portion then, and areas from Bedford south. Safest place to be the lowest level of your home. Someone came in, any information you have, you can just bring on over to us. Of course, we're in a period of discovery with Johnson County, with Bargersville, with New Whiteland, in that area over toward, then the storm moved between Shelbyville and Rushville, and that's where we're at with that storm now. Kyle?
All right, Kevin, so let's kind of give you again the picture here with the warnings that we have in effect. We've got the one tornado warning for you here, southeastern Monroe County. This goes until 5:30, so another 25 minutes on that one, and we are going to be tracking that into Jackson County. So we'll take you back down here in a second. Then you can see we've got additional severe thunderstorm warnings. Right now, let's take you in around Delaware County and Muncie, where you are getting some heavy rainfall, possibly some hail within this storm, but 60 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The primary threat with this one, your severe thunderstorm warning, it goes until 5:30. So that storm moving through Muncie now, continuing to push pretty well due to the east, around 40 miles per hour. All right, here right along the Shelby and Rush County lines. We were just talking about this storm. This is potentially the same area, the same storm that was tracking that tornado and damage across portions of Johnson County earlier, and we're seeing these reds and greens that are getting a little more organized here. So again, anywhere east, as we work our way into central and southern parts of Rush County, go ahead and get to that lowest interior level of your home, because this storm environment, at any point, it can spin up a tornado. So we're going to be, again, watching that, and Kevin will get us the latest on that alarm that you hear going off.
Okay, so that's a new tornado warning, radar indicated, near 8 miles northwest of Brownstown. So that's a storm we've been watching coming out of Monroe County, southeast then of Lake Monroe, and northwest of Brownstown, and in Jackson County. This is 12 miles west of Seymour, moving to the east at 35 miles per hour. And you can, you see that on your screen, the warning that's currently in effect, radar indicated. These have all had the ability to produce very large hail and damaging wind, as well as tornadoes. And so Kyle has kind of zoomed in on rotation there. But again, just one more for you, Kyle, that it is northwest of Brownstown, west of Seymour, moving east at 35.
Okay, and so there you can see in northwestern parts of Jackson County, where we again have these reds, these greens. You've been with us throughout the afternoon. This is what we've been looking for as far as when it comes to that rotation indicated on radar and possible tornado development here. So we're watching actually a couple of areas of that red and green kind of coming together here within this particular line of thunderstorms. And as Kevin was mentioning, that's going to be moving toward the east and southeast. So Seymour, you are in the path of that thunderstorm, and there's even a little bit closer view. There's Highway 50. So we're talking about areas north and moving into northwestern parts of rural Jackson County. Actually, let's see if I can get back to that, or I may have just locked things up there. Kevin, let's go back to you.
I'll mention, and we can go to my radar, and you'll see the enhanced or close-up version of that. But from west of Seymour, you get to Freetown. Northwest of Brownstown, Clear Spring, Houston, Story, Indiana is in portions of, obviously, southern portions of Brown County. But this storm then, with the potential to produce a tornado, sitting west of Seymour. Here's Brownstown, there's the storm to the north and to the west. And Freetown, kind of at this intersection right in here, is where you find Freetown. Then you come up toward Houston, and then up toward Story as you get to Brown County State Park, up in the southern portion then of Brown County. That would be on the northern edge of this, and the storm is moving pretty much to the east. There's the view. Let me broaden this, and you'll see where this is moving. But pretty much all of Jackson County now included in the tornado warning, with the greatest danger now just to the west of Seymour, northwest of Brownstown, moving along the southern portions then of Brown County, southern portions of Bartholomew County, will cross over I-65 between, say, Columbus and Seymour, closer to Seymour for sure, the way that looks right now. That's the active warning that we have. Let me show you other thunderstorm warnings as Kyle was watching from the Rushville area over toward Connorsville, Liberty, and then Brookville Reservoir. But this cluster down to the south east from Nashville south, Columbus south, and then specifically from Brownstown and Seymour, just to the west-northwest. That's where the most dangerous portion of the storm sits at this point. There's the circulation associated with this, and you say, well, what are these colors? And again, the red is moving away from the radar, and remember the radar's up in Indianapolis. So the red is moving away from the radar, the green toward, and that's the circulation that is necessary for a storm to potentially produce a tornado. Kyle?
Okay, Kevin. So this morning, you probably stepped outside, noticed it's the most humid that we have had in quite some time. And that really kind of set the stage, along with temperatures that surged near 90 degrees this afternoon, all ahead of a weather system. And once we kind of popped the lid on the atmosphere, these storms took off pretty quickly. And you can see where we still, again, we've been really kind of focusing in on this tornado warning that continues until 5:30, and primarily it's for the storm now that has moved into Jackson County. So would expect that we'll see the back edge of that warning drop off. Let's take you in for the severe thunderstorm warning, and Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is exactly where you zoomed into,
Okay.
Kyle. Decatur and Rush, 70-mile-per-hour winds possible with that storm. So considerable damage possible, 2-inch hail possible as that storm is moving through those areas, and you're zeroed in on it.
Yeah, so we're looking at these winds inside the storm. These can also give us an indication of how strong some of just the thunderstorm wind gusts can be. We've still got this area of green and red in the southwestern portion of the county. So if we do see any rotation, there's a live update for you. You can see that that would be the area of concern for possible tornado development, but really anywhere through the county at this point, and especially as we take you in a little closer. So this is Indiana, this is State Road 3. There you can go, that's 244. So we're looking at this area right here for some of those strong damaging winds, also possibly some hail with that storm. And then again, we take you back here to Jackson County. Talked about that. They just dropped it off to the north and west, so it's now Jackson County, northern part. And Kevin,
yeah,
go
you know,
ahead.
you're fine right there. Brown, Lawrence, and Monroe are all out. Jackson County still until 5:30. Radar indicated.
Okay, and so let's go ahead and put the track back on here as far as the velocities are concerned. We've still got some areas of red. We've got some areas of green. They're not tightly packed together, but still they're together. So that means the potential is there for rotation and possible tornado. So it's a radar indicated tornado at this point. And then just taking you back up here, it looks like this storm in Delaware County around Muncie is really weakening. So that's some good news for you, getting in on some rain there. But overall, looks like that storm is moving out. And we talked about these storm winds and really developing some of that very large hail throughout the afternoon.
So west of Seymour along 258, that's near just west of Seymour, northwest of Brownstown, where the most dangerous portion of that storm sits now. As it moves to the east, Muscatatuck, the National Wildlife Refuge there would be in the path. The Freeman Municipal Airport, which is just to the southwest of Seymour, Rockford, Dudleytown, Tampico, and Jackson White State Forest is on the south side then of Brownstown. You may just miss that as it's moving, as you can see, pretty much from west of Seymour to the east. And that brings it Jonesville. This is south of Columbus. You've got an intense thunderstorm there, but the more dangerous portion of this storm sits west of Seymour for the moment and to the northwest of Brownstown, Freetown, Spraytown, Surprise, Indiana, perhaps some communities that you're not familiar with, but in Jackson County, west of Seymour and north of Brownstown. That is the storm that will cross I-65 and bring traffic to a standstill there because of the torrential rain and the tornado warning sirens going off. Obviously, if you're in the Seymour area, don't go driving anywhere. Lowest level of your home from Columbus northwest along I-65 into Johnson County, into Franklin. Storms have passed. There may be some damage in your path, wind damage and tornado damage. We're waiting to find out more on that. But the most imminent threat is their western portions and northern portions of Jackson County. Look at all of these individual cells. That's a vicious storm that's northwest then of Louisville. That's turning right and moving away from our viewing area. You've got others that are running along Interstate 64. As Kyle mentioned, we've seen some storms weaken in northeast Indiana. You still no severe storms at this moment. Winchester, Portland, Marion, Hartford City, you'll get some torrential downpours, and not to say you couldn't see some large hail or damaging winds. Richmond, just about leaving the county for now. We'll continue to monitor and not take this storm for granted at all from Shelbyville and over to Rushville now. The core of the stronger storm is south of Rushville and will move east toward Brookville Reservoir, Blooming Grove, Laurel, and move into Franklin County. I'm backing up. You're getting some rain again in that area, Shelbyville up to Fairland, and then general rain Nashville north. But the more intense storms are now really confined from Rushville down to Columbus, down to Bedford, and into southwest Indiana. Kyle?
And Kevin, we can look at the storm report so far from the afternoon, kind of give you an idea of where these storms have tracked. There you can see, of course, that sticks out to you, those reports of tornadoes there across northern portions of Johnson County. That threat has since passed. We're looking at what's happened through the afternoon, and all these blue circles with the little white dots in them, those are hail reports, and several occasions where we've had reports of hail that's been over 2.5 and an inch in diameter. All right, here's a look at the active radar that continues here for us, the tornado warning until 5:30 for portions of Jackson County here, so another 12, 13 minutes or so. Let's take you into Rush County. Thunderstorm there near and south and east of the Rushville area. This thunderstorm warning until 5:30, primarily for some gusty winds. You could have some large hail in that storm as well. And of course, we continue to track this storm capable of producing a tornado. And it looks like we've had a little bit of an extension here until 5:45 for portions of Jackson County. This includes Seymour, that lowest, safest place of your home. You need to get there now, and there you can see Indiana, I believe that says 258 there. A decent amount of lightning, not a lot, not as much as what we saw earlier in the afternoon. And as we look at these velocities, these winds in the storm again, we can see there's a couple of areas of some red and green coming together, so some possible still rotation, and that's why we continue with that tornado warning and actually just getting the latest from the Weather Service. So I will pop that up here. That thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Brownstown, moving east at 35 miles per hour. So, Kevin, still a radar indicated tornado.
And that means heads up Seymour. Let me take you back to Johnson County, and we rewind a little bit. I've got my marker here. I just need to move the map a little bit so you can see better. This is about 4:10. We had the first report of a tornado, and I'll click on this for the storm report, saying multiple videos on social media of the tornado on the ground at intersection of I-69 and State Road 44. That's at 4:10. Then we move to the east. You can see pretty much in a line there. No guarantee it's the same, but there's between Greenwood and New Whiteland, multiple pictures from the public of possible tornado near Highway 31 and Worthsville Road. And Kyle also showed us a viewer video of a tornado as well. That is the area that we've had reports of tornado or tornadoes. We don't know if it's one or one that lifted up and then touched down again, but that's what the survey team will be assessing as they go through. I doubt if they get out this evening. Obviously, local authorities are on the scene assessing, but then as far as the storm kind of history, they'll go back and look and get all of the details of that. But
and Kevin,
yes.
So of course our news team is working on getting some additional information, reporting from Mike Pruitt with the Bargersville Fire Department, confirming multiple structures damaged, no reports of injuries in the Stones Crossing 135 area. So at least that is some good news coming out of that area, and also looks like one of our crews that's on the scene saying that in the area of Travis and Mullenix, that there are some downed lines there.
That's also in Johnson County, we believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the radar, the current situation, those of you that should be in your basement, lowest level of your home, Jackson County, from Brownstown to Seymour, this will cross I-65, southern, extreme southern portions, and of Bartholomew County, south of Columbus, catching an intense portion of that storm as well. I slow this down. Jonesville along I-65 on down to Seymour. just north of Brownstown and Cortland. I'll take the lightning out. The lightning associated with this makes it hard to identify some things, but there's Spraytown, Cortland, Seymour, New Farmington, areas just west then of Seymour, where this thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado sits. And if we flip over to Kyle's computer, we can see there the rotation within this storm, part of the reason for the warning.
Yeah, and so we are looking, there you can see that's Indiana 258. Of course, here's Seymour, and we see some areas just north of Highway 50 here, some of these brighter greens, areas of reds across the central and northern half of the county there, where we're tracking the potential for a tornado and tornadic development. And Kevin, I believe you said, is it about 35, 40 miles per hour?
Yes, to the east. So this is going to cross the east fork of the White River. It's going to continue its march across the northern portion then of Jackson County, and you can see on the screen time of arrival, and you just choose a section of this storm as it moves through Four Corners, North Vernon, which is out ahead of the storm, Seymour itself, and New Elizabethtown. These are all communities where you should seek shelter immediately in the lowest level of your home. Now, notice the warning is also south of Seymour. That's just to account for some movement within the storm as you see the whole southern portion of the county. But right now, along State Road 258 west of Seymour, and if I follow 258 west of Seymour, there's the Lloyd Scott Gymnasium, which is just south of there. Just looking at local markers, the Cortland Diner, East Fork of the White River, you cross over that. So these are different communities that you're familiar with. And you get out into the western portion of Seymour and then cross the White River. That's where the core of the storm sits, and that's ironic I say core because hail has been a big part of what's happened today with these stronger storms, and we've had large pictures of hail sent to us, and I think large enough to do some damage in some cases.
Yeah, we've had a couple reports of some broken windows. No surprise, we've had some reports of baseball-sized hail out of some of these storms this afternoon, so we're talking about hail that's in excess of 2 to 2.5 inches in diameter.
What's important, not just to warn you of where the storms are headed next, but I want to point out, we can go back to the tornado watch, and we mentioned once the line of storms moves through, then the threat ends in your community, and that's certainly the case here, as you can see, from Peru to Indy, back toward Terre Haute and Sullivan, that area west, the threat for severe weather has come to an end. There are severe storms still in Delaware County, south of Rushville to Brookville Reservoir, and then from near Seymour, the thunderstorm warning from near Nashville to Columbus and areas south along I-65. And you see how scattered in nature this looks, not very organized. Oftentimes in Indiana, we get what we call a squall line. It's a solid line of storms, mainly with damaging wind threat, sometimes isolated tornadoes embedded in this. What we had today is a situation where we didn't get the squall line. We had a bunch of individual storms, supercells on most occasions, producing large hail, and in some instances, tornadoes. And we'll get the lay of the land with that as we go through the next 24 hours, and I'm sure within the next minutes and hours as each community kind of assesses where they're at. But as far as the severe weather threat, again, areas from Muncie to southeast side of Indy to Bloomington southeast, that's really where we're starting to confine the threat. And the strongest storm seems to be obviously the tornado warning, thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado down in Seymour. Other areas of strong thunderstorms south of Marion toward Hartford City, north of Muncie, Eaton, and then Winchester, Portland, you'll inherit some of those. We're going to go down into Jackson County, and at any time, Kyle, if there's something new, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll...
Yeah, working on some video here.
Okay, I'll ramble on. But now between Brownstown and Seymour, that cluster confined right here. Here's State Road 258. I'm going to zoom in even more, make sure I got that right. And Freeman Municipal Airport just to your northwest, Reading, Seymour in the path of this, Cortland, dead center on that, which is likely producing some very large hail. There's the hail history as it's been moving to the east along 258 toward Seymour. We can look at the velocity within this, so that shows us the rotation. Now keep in mind, from the Indianapolis airport, as you get a half a degree, the beam that goes up, you get down into southern Indiana in areas, and you're only sampling then different levels, a higher level of the storm. I think Kyle has some video here, and I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, Kevin. So this was earlier in the afternoon. This is from Haley Christofferson at State Road 144 and I-69. And camera, it'll come into view here in just a second. You'll see that tornado actually, it looks like, in the development stages here. And then there we can see this is a cut to a different view, but there you can see that large tornado making its way, and this was, and you can see some of that debris getting tossed into the air as well. So this was State Road 144 and I-69, saying that that was just after 4 o'clock this afternoon.
And so you see the challenge there. From a distance, you're not positive. One thing you'll look for is actually debris in the air that you can see. We can see that rotation. See the cloud in the foreground here? That whole thing is rotating. And within that wall cloud is the most likely place for a tornado. There was a better view of that spin up. If you're closer, you can see, is that circulation in contact with the ground? In this case, they're likely to the southwest of the storm. They're in a rain-free portion of this. Often out ahead of it, you're going to get the torrential rainfall, the hail. Your view is blocked. The southwest portion of it, sometimes you'll get a much different view of that storm. But that's a look at what we're talking about. These supercell storms, the lowered base, you see the rotation, the spin of the parent thunderstorm, and then within that, potential for tornadoes just about any time during the life cycle of the supercell. Now, every supercell doesn't produce a tornado, but most supercells produce the stronger tornadoes. They produce the damaging wind, the large hail, all forms of severe weather. And that's what makes them a unique class within thunderstorm world and severe weather world. We've got 4 different warning areas, and I'll work from the tornado warning in Jackson County. That in effect until 5:45. We're just at about 5:30. Jackson, Seymour, Brownstown in the path of a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Just about to expire is a storm from Nashville, southern Brown County, to southern portions then of Bartholomew County. In Rush County, thunderstorm warning. Decatur and Rush until the bottom of the hour as that starts to push toward Connorsville, towards Liberty, and then the warning until 5:30 up in Delaware and just touching extreme eastern Madison counties. And now we put this in motion, and you can see all of these individual storms almost confined to the eastern half of the state. We'll be able to use very soon 31 as the dividing line from west to east, from no thunderstorms from the sun coming back out to the individual thunderstorms still towering and producing severe weather potential. Here's another flare-up, if you want to call it that, that's back in Johnson County. It'll go by the outlet malls there in Edinburgh, crossing 31 and I-65, Nineveh. Then it comes into southern portions then of Shelby County. This is north of Taylorsville, really between Columbus and Franklin, but Columbus to Edinburgh, some torrential rain there. From Rushville down to Greensburg, some spotty, heavy rainfall, but the storm, which is about ready to encompass all of Seymour. Look at the ball of lightning associated with this. We're going to look at the hail returns from within that, and there is the core just west of Seymour. If you can put your car in the garage, if you have patio furniture, that should be protected from the wind and the umbrellas down to limit any potential damage from hail there. The lightning will pull that off, and now you get the closer view. But North Vernon to Seymour, there's the airport, there's Reading, there's Fleming, Cortland, really now from Cortland to Seymour to Fleming on the east side, New Farmington on the south. That is the nucleus of that severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. There's the whole of central Indiana. And we really, just so you know, we'll cover from Peru and Monticello and Marion on the north all the way down to just south of Bedford and Seymour to the south, and then state line to state line from Illinois to Ohio. That's really the coverage area of WRTV. Around the edges, sometimes it gets a little bit more fuzzy as some of you watch us on over-the-air signal, some on cable systems and multiple platforms. But the other lesson in this, as we talked about for a while, the severe weather threat for today. You can have a great safety plan, but you need to know the storm is coming. That's why the Storm Shield app, a weather radio, you can have many free options to get the warning and know when to take action. Kyle has another video, I believe.
Yeah, give me just 1 second here.
And so getting these to air can be a challenge sometimes through the different formats, but we appreciate all of you sending in pictures, whether it's of hail or tornadoes in a couple of cases now. And Kyle has this video. I'm not sure where this one's from. Is this Johnson County as well?
Yes,
okay.
It is.
So you can hear it in his voice. We're trying to do three things at once, right? Carry on the conversation, and there you go.
This was from south of Stones Crossing and 135.
Okay, so you see it. You see the debris. Look at the debris flying there, and obviously there's no difficulty in seeing that tornado, shingles. So hopefully everybody was in a place of safety. In this case, the funnel, very dark in color. Oh my. Picking up debris, dirt, making it very obvious. When you look at these, the width of a tornado doesn't always tell you the strength of a tornado. These narrow tornadoes can still be very powerful. And look at that. So the circulation may or may not be touching the ground at that point. You see it lift, and that's how this works sometimes. So you had a storm spotter on that, you had public watching that, and this storm then may generate another tornado on down the road. But Eric Ford sharing that video with us, the threat for tornadoes in eastern and southeastern portions then of Jackson County near Seymour toward North Vernon. Additional thunderstorms lag behind that if you go to the north along I-65 from Edinburgh to Columbus. Those are non-severe, and the threat for severe weather is really starting to be squeezed into eastern Indiana and then areas from Greensburg, Seymour, southeast of Bedford, down in here closer to the Ohio River. Never say never with some of these on the backside, but they've already been through an area where we've had storms. The atmosphere has been worked over, so to speak. And so the dynamics change a little bit. I want to just pop this weather camera up. This happens to be from Bloomington. As we go to different weather cameras, obviously eastern Indiana is going to look a lot different than the western portion of the state. Greencastle had lots of hail. Look at the difference there. You actually see the bright blue sky and some towering cumulus clouds. We'll take a look at the Speedway camera, and that's the view from Indianapolis, from Speedway to Indianapolis, looking south and east, and so looking toward the cloud cover and the departing storms. Kyle is working on our Jackson County storm, where the current active tornado warning continues for about the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, Kevin. So we'll take you back down to southern parts of the area now. Your tornado warning until 5:45 here this afternoon. This is in eastern portions of Jackson County. Does encompass the Seymour area, so you need to be, again, in that safe location. Here's a look at the winds inside the storm. The green and the red. So the green going toward the radar, and we're looking from the radar in Indianapolis. The red's going away from it, and so where where those come together, that's where we're looking at that possible rotation here and possible tornadic development. Can see a little bit of even an enhancement here on some of the reds, showing up a little bit of a pink. So as we're making our way toward I-65 here in eastern portions of Jackson County. Some very heavy rainfall within the Seymour area as well. We'll continue to look here. Want to look at the hail potential in this storm. So we'll switch views here, and there you can see that moving into the Seymour area right now. And we get these oranges and yellows indicating we could have some 1-inch diameter hail. Still a threat with that storm, in addition to possibly some damaging winds and, of course, the tornado threat.
It doesn't last that long, but the rainfall is torrential. I mean, the rate of rain, probably 3 inches in an hour's period of time. We'll flip over to computer A, and what Kyle was talking about in the rotation can be depicted in multiple ways. This symbol is what we call a TVS, tornado vorticity signature, indicating the rotation and the potential tornado within that storm. Kyle will let us know what we've got there as far as the latest bells. Every time that goes off, it's usually an additional warning of some type. You can see on your screen then the storm's path will move from Seymour toward North Vernon, and with the potential to produce a tornado.
Yeah, so the Weather Service saying here that thunderstorm still capable of producing a tornado. As we just saw, we still have some areas of rotation that located near Seymour and moving to the east at 40 miles per hour. Also the potential for some quarter-size hail. Again, this is radar-indicated rotation, so this would put it in the Hayden area at 5:45 and Paris Crossing about 10 minutes later, just before 6 o'clock this evening.
Highway 50, as it moves from Seymour to North Vernon or areas just to the south. Muscatatuck Wildlife Refuge is just to the south then of 50. And you notice the marker change to this yellow arrow rotating. It's a mesocyclone. It's a rotating storm. It's a supercell, just like we saw some of the videos of the whole storm itself turning. And that spin is the key toward potentially producing a tornado if it's on the storm scale, meaning that the rotation is coming from the storm itself. We've seen cases where rotation starts at the ground level, but those are typically weak in comparison. Just so a lot of you can relax, look at what's not happening in the western portion of the state. West of an Evansville to Bloomington to Indianapolis and Peru line, severe threat has ended. The explosion of strong storms continues in southern Indiana between Seymour and Louisville, Kentucky. You've got several storms there that will need to be watched closely. Well to the south of Bedford, they're moving away from central Indiana. You notice how they're turning what we would call to the right. There's the storm within the WRTV viewing area that still commands your respect, and you should be in the lowest level of your home in the basement. And I'm going to turn off the storm marker so that will stop spinning and you get a better look there. New Farmington, Chestnut Ridge, Four Corners, Fleming, these are all south of Highway 50 and southwest of North Vernon, southeast of Seymour, and the Muscatatuck National Wildlife Refuge, as we mentioned, impacted by this. On a lighter note, in a sense, if you want to call it that, boy, do we need rain. This still isn't going to make a dent in our drought situation, but certainly there are some 1-inch rainfall amounts that occurred today as a result of these storms, but there are many of you that didn't see much rain at all. It was not a solid area of storms, and the fact that it wasn't a solid area of storms has led to the enhanced severe weather versus just a long line of storms with more localized wind damage.
And Kevin, these thunderstorms, you know, a lot of times we talk about the cold front coming through. Well, there is a cold front, but these storms were out ahead of it. And look at what has happened here this afternoon. Of course, Kevin was showing you earlier on the Weather Now cameras, the sun coming back out and heating things again. 91 right now in Lafayette, 86 in Crawfordsville, but 77 in Indy. This will not be setting the stage for any more severe weather, but still on the steamy side out there behind these thunderstorms. So there's a look. We've got our tornado warning here for the next 5 minutes. That goes for eastern portions of Jackson County, but I know that was extended over into portions of Jennings County as well. So that one going until 6:15. There's a look at the lightning around the storm, and really it's right here, extreme eastern portions of Jennings going into eastern Jackson going into western portions of Jennings County. And there we can see still some of these areas of red and green coming together. So this is Highway 31 here in the eastern portion of Jackson County. That's where we are keeping a very close eye and waiting for any possible spotter reports or confirmation from emergency management of any confirmed tornado out there. There's an updated feed and look for you, and you can see we've got still some of these areas of greens and reds basically right along the county line. Also, we've seen the hail kind of jump up here and spike a little bit south of town, south of Seymour here and south of Highway 50, where radar is indicating currently could see 1.5 inch diameter hail. And we've seen where this is actually a little bit low today, Kevin. That could be a little bit higher than that.
The pictures of the hail and some of the damage will be coming in as a result of these storms that started a little before 2 o'clock is when we really started to see these blossom and quickly became severe weather producers, with hail being the initial threat. Then the tornado threat was starting to grow as the storms moved into central and now eastern and southeastern Indiana. You can see the lone warning that we have is the tornado warning for Jackson County for the next 3 minutes or so. It extends, as Kyle mentioned, into Jennings County, southwest portions of Jennings County. That will be just outside of our viewing area as it makes its move to the Ohio River and also toward Madison, Indiana, closer to the Ohio River, but out of the WRTV viewing area. Again, keeping track then of the changing tornado watch situation. Counties being eliminated in western and northwestern portions of the state. The threat lingers to the east, southeast, but that's even being pushed closer to the state line. There's the warning. Those of you in Seymour have the most intense storm at this point just to your southeast, south of Highway 50, along and east of I-65. It's going to continue to move into Jennings County, but it's really cutting through the southern half. You're getting torrential rain in North Vernon, the core of the storm, perhaps with a large hail associated with this too. Looks like there's no doubt about that. Southeast of Seymour, that's looking into the storm to just detect hail core, and that's what we're seeing there. That's the rotating portion of the storm, why the warning still exists and has been extended then into Jennings County, but it won't be long, and areas south and east then of Seymour will start to see conditions improve as the storm moves away. Let me just point out one other thing, and I'm just going to zoom right back in. I don't want to make you sick by moving the radar around so much, but Brownstown, Medora, there's an additional thunderstorm right behind that. That may well continue its march to Brownstown once again, and just south of 50 and Seymour kind of covering the same path. But again, it won't share the same dynamics as the storm that's currently near Seymour. There's the larger view of central Indiana, and again, starting to confine the real severe weather threat east and southeast and south, well south in the Hoosier State.
Kevin, looks like from ham radio operators on that storm in Jennings County, possible report of a tornado near 75 and State Road 3. That just a couple of minutes ago, that was a 911 call that was reported to ham radio operators.
Okay, so I've zoomed in here. There's Four Corners, there's Fleming, there's New Farmington, Chestnut Ridge. This is south of 50 and 31 and I-65, and really starting to cross over very soon into Jennings County. And that's a Jennings County report you were saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that will cut through areas southwest of North Vernon, and it's moving east and a little bit southeast. It will stay south of Highway 50 and soon be east of I-65. You see Seymour itself and Northwest getting a break from that as the storm is going to be pretty soon toward the Ohio River and cutting into Kentucky, maybe into southern portions then of Ohio as it continues its march there. But that's a possible report of a tornado with the storm that's carried a tornado warning for a while. And at any time with these that we've seen with severe thunderstorm warnings, the fact that they're rotating means that they have the potential to produce a tornado at any time. Depending on the tightening of the circulation, then you go from a thunderstorm warning to a tornado warning. There are other indicators that would make that happen, but when the circulation is broad, it may just be a thunderstorm warning, and then things change, and then it is able to produce a tornado.
And Kevin, we're just getting the latest now from the Weather Service